Hello everyone, welcome to Continental Aspire Soccer. I'm your host, CEO and founder, Nick Donnelly. Really happy to be here with you. Follow any of our latest content on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter and Facebook. You can reach out to us there with any questions that you may have at the end. What we're going to hit on today is what is the mindset on a professional scout when he's looking at a young player. I would definitely say, in terms of whenever a scout looks at a player, his first thing is are you potentially going to be a good player, academy wise, and that's what every scout wants to see. And they go out to endless games for hours and hours. It could be weeks and weeks on end, and some of them usually fall into a couple of different categories. You'll have players that are extremely raw, meaning they've got good ability. They can do certain things, but there's just bits of the game that the coaching is going to be required to get those bits of the game up to the required level that's going to help them to progress to like that next level. I think a lot of times people think that recruitment, they don't really understand that player recruitment is not straightforward. It's not a straight shot. And obviously I know, because I get calls from agents, coaches, scouts, chief execs. I speak to a broad array of people. And one of the things that they're always looking for their club to be better. The mindset of a scout is they are so selective, but they have to be selective because they need to make sure because that could affect the stability of that club and obviously fans, you know what I mean? They want to be entertained. I always say that kids are coming into the entertainment, and that's what football is. You got to understand it's the entertainment industry. So a scout is fully aware of that, and they have to usually work, and sometimes they won't even get a day off because they're so busy round the clock. With obviously they might do reports, they might have to be at games. I know some scouts working 70, 80 hours, if you look at 70 hours a week, and that's quite a lot, you know what I mean, where maybe they don't see a lot of their family. And that's kind of what football is. It's the non-romantic side. You're not sitting on the beach, having the nice drink like you're on holidays in the Bahamas. That's just not what football is. Football is it's very, very demanding. I've been in it since I was 6 years of age, so I know what every kid is actually going to experience, and it takes complete dedication, without question. And that's one of the things that scouts really look at. They look at, is this kid, does he have the potential? But to have the potential, but potential has to be confirmed, and that's confirmed over a number of years. And football is an education. It's educating and making sure that this is a kid that really, really cares about what he's doing. He's working on the different parts of his game. You know what I mean? And I think that's definitely, I know when I was growing up as a kid, I was out playing street football all the time. And I was just in love with it. And I think if I was to say something, I think that's one of the things that scouts actually look at. They look at, does he love it enough? And that is always very evident, because if you look at the world we're in today, football is a very well paid profession. So there's a lot of people, it's super competitive. And so scouts are also competitive because they have to make sure that they do what's best for the club they work for. So a lot of scouts that contact us, mainly from for example, the Dutch Eredivisie, the German Bundesliga, they know exactly what they're looking for, the Belgian Pro League. So we know what their profile is. So they'll literally come to us when they see what it is they're looking for. And like I say, we do an evaluation. So when we look at the evaluation of a potential player, we look at a player based upon we look at a couple of traits. So we do, and it's actually called PITS, kind of like within a pit stop. And it's basically personality, game insight, technique, and speed. And we'll actually go into it, and we cover our philosophy in deeper detail. And what kids are expected to know at a certain age. We also cover that in the online football training course as well, which will actually help a lot of kids. Before we move to the next section, I would like to announce the launch of our new online football training, i.e. / talent identification program, run by first team coach at Royal Antwerp of the Belgian Pro League. And just to kind of discuss a little bit about Ken. Ken is someone that CAS has known for almost 5 years, and obviously having worked with a lot of Manchester United coaches, going all the way back to when they used to prepare all the Manchester United players to play first team football. Ken is obviously a vastly experienced, also an ex-professional, having played in Belgium, also having taken players from all over the world, from Israel, from America, from Northern Ireland, from England, from Scotland, and having brought players, and obviously players that obviously come through, and obviously works with the current first team players, that maybe aren't ready, aren't getting into the first team, at Royal Antwerp. So he's very, very experienced and brings through the academy players and gets them ready for the first team. So these are obviously, working with a very high profile coach like Ken is definitely going to help everyone. And like I say, this course is going to be designed to help you to understand how to succeed if you want a career in continental Europe. So if you're a non-EU player, this is for you. But even if you're not an EU player, you're also good as well, to obviously come and apply and register. And the course is going to, so if you want to succeed, obviously Ken's goal is to enable every player to make the right decision in terms of the personality profiling of the player, obviously the tactical play, to their lifestyle, and also how to get a professional trial in continental Europe. So the area CIS covers being the Dutch Eredivisie, the Belgian Pro League, the German Bundesliga, the Austrian Bundesliga, and many, many more. And obviously the relationship aspect, the relationships that the player has with the coach and the coach with the player, relationship with parents, all of this is going to be discovered depending on which category you are. And this is going to be good for kids ranging from with pretty much as an under 11 all the way up to under 23. This is definitely for you. And like I say, you can find the link in the online football training, i.e. talent identification online program, and the description of the webinar. See you inside. The ability to fit the club's philosophy. So to fit the club's philosophy, you know, I mean, every club has a very kind of a different philosophy. So, for example, if you go to like Ajax, if you go to Ajax in Holland, their philosophy is very technically sound, and they play zonally. So the way that they like to get it forward and play, they like you to be very good in possession. They like you to be very good out of possession in terms of how you recover when maybe the team isn't in possession. So they're looking for an extremely technically proficient, not even proficient, but where he's showing the right technical advances in his development. So they're definitely aware of that. Then if you go to somebody, for example, like Borussia Dortmund, a club like that, is the way that they play with an aggressive, very attacking. It's very similar to Liverpool. They're quite identical in that remit. So their whole objective is literally to make sure. So they like to play extremely, but they're also, German teams are known for being tactically, but their fitness levels are unbelievable. So you just need to look at great German teams at World Cups and things like that, which if you look at the Dutch stat, they would be very, very different. I personally think Germans are more tactically sound than Dutch teams are. I think what they do, I think how physical they are, I think how quick they are, and I think they've just got more of a robustness. So that's why we always say to people, you know, we would have more of a German philosophy to what we do, but we obviously want players to learn things, but also we don't expect the player to be there right away. So we develop a player so he's prepared to go into any club in Belgium, Germany, Holland, France, or Italy, and where they'll see that he's got really good ability. So you never have to worry about that. But these are some of the things that you've also got to be able to be. You've got to be adaptable. Can a player cope when he goes into an elite environment? When you're going into a professional football club, you're leaving what level you've come from, and then your whole mentality will have to change, because what clubs expect, what they demand. Because at the end of the day, You know what I mean? They have so many kids want to be in your position, so many, and so if you're not willing to do, there's somebody else who will do it, and that's kind of how football works. Football, soccer, it doesn't matter. It's like that is how it works, and so you've got to be willing to be pushed. You know, and I've seen very good players. You know what I mean? They were really good players, and they end up getting released. You know, because literally, whenever you start to lose sight of that, and like I say, clubs, they don't have the time. They will give you enough time. They'll help you as best as they can, but then it always comes back to you. So you also have to be aware of where you're going to be in your development, say within 1 or 2 years. But as long as a kid is showing the right attitude, so when you're going into, for example, an elite environment, so clubs, there's a lot of structure. So for example, in terms of strength and conditioning, from when you go in there, you eat your breakfast, you're there all day. So when you start out at 15, 16, or your first year is where you're going in as a scholarship, you're not haven't signed a professional contract yet. Usually I think it's when you turn your 17th birthday, you're allowed to become a full professional. But before that, that's not what you're going to be doing. What you're going to be doing before that, you'll be going in there, and then of course you'll be doing where you go in and you do like analysis. They look at things. It's the strength and conditioning. It's working on your body. Same your body's doing. Obviously, you'll obviously work on your own program based upon that's kind of what a club is obviously going to do with you. Obviously, there's obviously other things you've got to do. So then it's obviously training as well. Then of course games and where your body's then going to catch up in that time. But typically you're going in quite a lot before that anyway. For those players that obviously whenever we get approached by clubs in German Bundesliga, those are things that are obviously going to take place. So it's definitely been aware of that, but I also believe that these are definitely the places that obviously you need to be aware of. So going into elite environment, you've got to be prepared for that. And it's definitely a massive thing for certain kids. Certain kids also as well. The banter in elite environment can be really, really nuts at times, and literally you've got to be prepared for that. You can't take that bit lightly. That bit is like so tough. So going out, on a cold shoot on a cold day and training, you're expected to work very, very hard and getting used to being uncomfortable. You know what I mean? So that's definitely what I think. So I think mentally, what you've got to process before going into that environment. And as long as that doesn't put you off, keep listening to what we're saying, CIS, and we'll help you kind of along that road. Well, time is your enemy. So you have to make sure that you do, when you first become a first-year scholar, or you first join a club even at 12 years of age, you're learning at that, but you're also expected to develop. But once you win at 16, that's when the real journey really begins. That's how it really begins. So it's also understanding that, going forward. The next thing is I would definitely say one of the things that scouts look for is they look at the parent involvement in the child's development, and good scouts, they have great relationships with the parents. And that's one of the things we do with like our welfare team. They'll have good relationships with the parents, make sure they're happy with things, and make sure their kid is doing what he's supposed to do. And I think that's definitely the key behind every player that's going to be successful or not successful. So that's definitely going to be a big aspect of it. But at the end of the day, the parent is supposed to be the parent. And their job is definitely to help their kid and support their kid and really help them. And obviously, I've seen this obviously many times. Is that's good to have that relationship, and that's one of the things that scouts will definitely look at. Versus if a parent is not helping the child, it's going to make it more difficult for the kid. And kids have been asked to leave clubs before because maybe the parent hasn't really been kind of been working against the process. And that's definitely challenging. I understand people kind of opinions, but at the end of the day, the parent has to be a parent and the club has to be the club. And I think they got to understand the boundaries of that relationship. So at the end of the day, the parents involved in the child's development is so important. And we also do cover stuff which we do cover from a personality perspective, and we do look at the player and the parents' relationship, because I think that's an important element. Definitely. Also, the motivation and the attitude of the player. We also give out an element of where we can see the attitude of a player, and what attitudes a player needs to be adopted. That can hinder progression. So it can. So that's definitely going to be an important element for any kid that's kind of going forward. He wants to make sure his attitude is proper. He works hard. He does what the coach tells him to do when he should do it. To listen. To be honest. So the expectation between the coach, and between the kid and between the parent, and that goals are always agreed, and that literally that's definitely going to be so. Also, the motivation. Well, if somebody's having to be told to be motivated, I think they've personally got a problem. But I think that there's certain things that can hinder kids, and so our goal is always to make sure we empower them. Our goal is to empower them so that they can take ownership of their own development, but give them the tools so they can stay motivated. You know what I mean? Along that journey.
We just also give you guys like a lot of our success stories that have come through it. Obviously, it come through Continental Aspire Soccer, and obviously it went on to have fairly decent careers. Some at the high end, some in the middle, some not in the middle, some just below. And it's always about the success story. I always look at when they've actually discovered their level. Just going through, I look at one of the best ones that I definitely had. Was a young lad called John Fitzpatrick. He came to a CAS talent identification camp in London pretty well, and obviously he had a chance to go to Leicester City, Manchester United, PSV, and Ajax, and Reading, and then Glasgow Celtic. He ended up choosing to go to. He wasn't able to go to Manchester United, but ended up going to. We obviously took him out, like I say, and done well at Leicester. Done 2 training sessions, and then obviously was offered a professional contract. Then obviously immediately following that, other success, and obviously he had been in the US under-17, U18 squads. Then of course you go on, and obviously I look at the likes of Adam Sally. He was an under-17 striker for Northern Ireland, and in under-17, under-18 at youth level, he scored 11 goals in 12 games. At international, one of which was when he scored against Belgium, who were one of the top-ranked countries. And the same thing, he came out to, he went through the talent identification process. Did very well. We ended up getting him into FC Groningen. Just slightly before one of our other players, Aiden Rustic, who is now currently has just moved recently to Eintracht Frankfurt in the summer. And who obviously can't get in the Eintracht Frankfurt's team at the minute, but is still progressing, is still doing very, very well. But then at the same time made his debut in the Confederations Cup against Brazil, and obviously at the same time maintained a regular spot at FC Groningen in the first team. Progressed, but before that he had progressed all the way from Australia. We had him in at Nottingham Forest, didn't quite make it there. Then we put him in to place in Austria. He done very well, excelled, and then obviously then moved to the Schalke Academy at under 16. Done very, very well, but then his pathway was blocked to the first team, obviously by Julian Draxler, who went on to play for Germany and PSG, and so he obviously has immediately moved on. He then moved to FC Groningen, where he was guaranteed a pathway to the first team, and so he took many different steps. Then, of course, I look at the likes of Jordan Thompson. He obviously was offered a professional contract at FC Groningen, or not FC Groningen, at Willem II in the Dutch Eredivisie. Done very, very well there in the Eredivisie. Then, of course, he then went from there, done extremely well, and and then obviously he decided to stay. He decided to take a contract in England in the end. But obviously he came out. Obviously he had just been at Manchester United, left the 18, was released then with the Glasgow Rangers, but wasn't quite making it there. Came out to a CS talent identification camp. Done very well then. Obviously we were able to move him at the same time he was in the current Northern Ireland under 21 international. Then of course we also look at many other players. So for example, Ronnie Dawkins, he played in the same youth team as Harry Kane at Tottenham before going to Ajax, doing really well. But for whatever reason, he didn't want to live in Holland, but done very well. But then moved back to the UK, and where obviously he was successful in getting a 1-year professional contract with Cardiff City. Then of course you also look at Reece Whittle. He ended up getting a very good first team. He ended up getting a reserve team contract. Would have been a 1-year contract with an option of a second year at Royal Antwerp. Doing very well. And then of course you look at obviously many others. Obviously in terms of his name is Leandro Martis. He's in Curacao. Saw him at a talent identification. We got him then a trial under Roy Mackay, who used to play for Bayern Munich in Holland, and he was then signed. He was signed to Feyenoord on a one pretty much on a usually works year by year, but he was offered an academy contract in there. Obviously done very well. Then of course Carlton Vicento, Edo Den Haag, later playing Greece, but then coming back, where he spent 18 months at Sparta Rotterdam. Then of course, you obviously won many other great stories in there that obviously went on to Declan Dunn, offered trials, was offered opportunities, contracts at Manchester United, and then obviously Nac Breda in Holland. Because we felt it would be a good place for him for his development. Obviously being a goalkeeper being a very specific position. Then from there, his club obviously not wanting to let him go in the end, so because he was just too expensive for most of the clubs. But that's a player that came through the CAS talent identification process. Tim Junkerman, same thing, came through. Obviously went in, felt that the Nike Academy was going to be good for him to start off. Needed a good platform, played for Holland at the underage levels, done extremely well. He is now currently a goalkeeper at FC. He's number 2 goalkeeper at FC Eindhoven in the Dutch second division, known as the Dutch Jupiler League. And then followed on by obviously, like I say, got a young lad. His name is Smiljanic, and he is, like I say, he's from Slovenia, and he went on to play in the Bundesliga for Hanover. Done very well. Obviously got a 3-year professional contract. These are many stories that we actually have in terms of players that have made it, who have done fairly well. And then other players, obviously you'll always have loads of players going on trial. That's one of the things we hope to do at CAS. We always aim to make sure we fit the right player, because we do profile every club to make sure the player is going into the right situation. And like I say, there might always be a number of steps you have to take to find out where your level is. As a professional, it's not something you just see on day one, week one. And then most of these players also have went on to play for their country as well. In terms of having a lot of caps. Remy Banzamini, he ended up going to Belgium Pro League. He played with Lurs before spells at obviously Rennes, in France in the French Ligue. But we also had him. He also went to Porto. Did very did well, but just didn't want to stay there. And like I say, he was a kid who obviously came through us who was recommended to us. And then he was playing in Algeria. So we've reached many players, non-EU players particularly, throughout the world, that obviously can actually come in and can actually do very well. So what's actually happened there? So if you're looking for those opportunities, and you're looking at players like that. And now he's playing for Borussia Mönchengladbach. He's a centre half, so he's playing in a team that's going to play Man City here in the Champions League very soon. They're doing well in Bundesliga. So these are just one of the many, and currently in the, like for example, in the Belgian Pro League, we also have over 20 players that are playing in the Belgian Pro League. So even you look at Royal Antwerp guys like Didier Lemkelz, you look at players like that who he kind of came to a process, and that can be anybody. You know what I mean? These are a lot of the success stories we want to be talking about your success story next. And you know what I mean? Are you going to be the next Aaron Rustic? Are you going to be the next Smiljanic? Are you going to be the next John Fitzpatrick? Are you going to be the next Declan Dunn? You know what I mean? You're going to be the next, you know what I mean, player that's really going to be moving in that direction. Are you going to be the next Leandro Martis? Went from Feyenoord, and from Feyenoord went to Willem II, then offered a contract and then ended up going to, had a chance to sign for either Manchester United or Leicester City. And also, obviously, I'm more recruitment about players like Frankie de Jong, De Ligt, who was at Ajax, seen him when he was younger. So these are players that are getting there, but somebody gave them an opportunity. So at the end of the day, can you be a success story? And the only way you're going to find that out is if you come through the online football talent identification. It's a good starting step for you, and seeing what it's like, you know, in the program to get an opportunity. But like I say, you're coming to the right place, and we evaluate every club every year. So come to Continental Aspire Soccer today and be our next success story.
But like I say, guys, it was great. This webinar's been great. Just being on this webinar with you guys. I appreciate your time, and any questions you might have, any questions you don't feel that we've actually answered, engage with us across all of our social channels, where we'll answer any of your questions, and we'll get back to you as quickly as we can. And thanks again, guys, and I'll see you in webinar 4.